Okay, welcome back. In this lesson, or this video, we're going to be exploring the use of fretboard diagrams. And by way of example, we're going to be using a lot of the pentatonic material that we've been talking about. So it'll be a nice review for that as well. What I'd like for you to do at this point is grab your mandolin and hold it, face up in front of you so that you can look down on the fretboard, and you'll be holding it with the nut on the left side on your left. And right away we run into a problem. Some of you are left-handed, and some of you may have left-handed mandolins. All I can do is apologize, because I have never seen a fretboard diagram for left-handed mandolins. You who are left-handed are probably rolling your eyes at this point, but I have to rely on the fact that you have up to now had to transpose everything and flip everything and get everything over into a mirror image all your life, and this is no exception. I'm sorry. Okay, here is a right-handed mandolin, and I am right-handed. Face up. Now we're looking right down at the fretboard. Now I have cut out a fretboard diagram that I found on page 20 of Brad's Mandolin Masterclass book. And you'll notice right here on one end we have a double line, and that's the nut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay that down so that the nut corresponds to the nut on my mandolin. And now we can see that the four lines in the diagram that are this way represent the strings on the mandolin, and the lines that are going this way are the frets. They represent the frets on the mandolin. The double line on the left side over here is the nut. Okay, that's as much as I'm going to do in person here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over, and we're going to use Brad's Mandolin Masterclass book. And so I would suggest you get that book out and you open it to page number 20. Okay, so here is page 20, the top of page 20 in the Mandolin Masterclass book. And Brad starts us off with a G major scale map, fretboard map. And just to review, here is the nut, and this is the E strings. This is the A strings, this is the D strings, and this is the G strings. And these vertical lines represent frets. So the first fret, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth, da 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 da. Okay, now, those black dots with the numbers in them, those black dots represent places that you can put your finger on the fingerboard and come up with a note that is in the G major scale. So if we look at this black dot right here, it's got a 4 in it. What does that 4 mean? That doesn't mean you use your fourth finger. It doesn't mean when you play it, like you play that as the fourth note that you play. What it means is It is the note which is in the fourth position of the G major scale. So if I do the G major scale, that goes G is number 1 position, A is number 2 position, B is number 3 position, and number 4 position is C. So this is a C if you need to know note names. But all this diagram is telling us is black dot means that there is a note that is part of the G major scale, and the number is telling us which note in the scale will sound when we fret where that black dot is. Now, the exception here is if we see a black dot sitting on top of the nut, that really, here's the first fret. We think of the nut as the 0 fret, and that means when we're on top of the 0 fret, that's an open string. Same thing as an open string. So when we see a black dot here on the nut, that means an open string. The number 1 here indicates it's an open G string. The number 5 is sitting on the D string, so that is an open D string. Okay, so the number 1 note of the G major scale is found right here on the nut, which is an open string. The number 2 note is found on by placing your finger right behind the 2nd fret, the number 2 note. The number 3 note is found by placing your finger right behind the 4th fret. The number 4 note is found by placing your finger right behind the 5th fret. Again, whichever finger is convenient for you. These numbers are not telling you which finger to use. The number 5 is an open note on the D string. The number 6 note is you put your finger down right behind the 2nd fret on the D string. The number 7 note, you put your finger down right behind the 4th fret on the D string. And finally, the number 1 note, which finishes up the scale, is found behind the 5th fret of the D string. So remember, the numbers just indicate the number the number of the note in the scale. Okay, G major scale again. The number 1 note, here is the high number 1 note, here is the low number 1 note. In this case, a number 1 note for the G major scale. So Brad says we can think about these black dots as, we can think of them as stepping stones. That is safe places to put our feet or our fingers. And anytime we put our finger where there is a black dot, we know that we're playing a note that is in the G major scale. And we also can tell by the number which note it is. This is the number 3 note in the G major scale, which is G is 1, A is 2, and B is number 3.